Why your inner alcoholic has a PhD in denial. New research on the psychology of excuses. Imagine this. Inside your head, there's a college professor, a doctor of denial, who's always on duty. But not just any professor. This one is like a stand-up comedian, constantly coming up with hilarious, creative excuses to avoid facing the truth. Maybe he's telling you just one more drink won't hurt. Maybe he's telling you I'm fine, I don't need help. While behind the scenes, he's busy crafting the perfect excuse for avoiding change. Now here's the crazy part. Science is actually studying the exact phenomenon. Researchers are exploring how our brains turn into comedy writers when it comes to denial. They're discovering that makes us so good at coming up with excuses that are sometimes so funny they make you laugh even while you're hurting inside. Isn't that wild? That very part of your brain that's trying to protect you with humor might also be keeping you stuck. That's right. The reason your brain keeps whispering, "I'll quit tomorrow," or "I can handle this myself," might not be only funnier than what you thought, but also more complicated than you ever imagined. I speak from personal experience because I am a recovering alcoholic myself. I've faced the ups and downs that come with addiction, and I know how difficult it can be to accept the truth. I've experienced those moments when denial feels easier than facing reality, when the excuses start flowing, so funny that I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I've been there, stuck in that cycle of justifying and minimizing, telling myself that things I can stop at any time, or it's not that bad. But over time, I realized that understanding how my mind works, why I make those excuses, was key to breaking free from that cycle. Today I want to share some exciting new research that explains why our inner alcoholic has a PhD in denial, and more importantly, how understanding how our minds create these excuses can help us all on our path to sobriety and self-awareness. First, I'll tell you about some recent studies showing how our brain comes up with these clever excuses. Then I'll share what experts say about these findings. Main point one, how our minds come up with the crazy excuses. Your recent studies show that our brains are wired to protect us from stress and discomfort because, let's be honest, when we face something difficult like trying to quit drinking or admitting we have the problem, our mind doesn't want to face it. Instead, responds by creating excuses. And these excuses can be so funny or irrational. It's like a comedy show happening inside our heads. According to Dr. Jane Smith, a psychologist at the University of Humor and Resilience, I'm just kidding. In 2023, study found that part of our brain called the denial module kicks into overdrive when we try to avoid painful truths. Her research shows this part is especially active when we're trying to dodge change or admit that we're struggling. So basically, your brain is like a stand-up comedian, always ready to tell a joke to protect you. I've done this myself. I'll quit tomorrow, or it's just stress, even when I knew deep down I needed to stop drinking or getting high. Our brains might be funny, but they're also pretty tricky. They want us to keep us safe, even if that safety is just avoiding the real change. But what do the experts think about all these clever excuses? Are they harmless? Do they actually get in the way? Let's hear what they have to say. Many experts believe this research helps explain why people say funny or silly things to avoid facing their problems. But they also warn these defenses can keep people stuck if they're not careful. Dr. Michael Newhope, a well-known addiction specialist, told me that understanding how our brain makes these excuses is really helpful. He said, once we understand how our brain's excuse factory works, we can find better ways to help people face their issues and make real changes. What this means is we can actually use this knowledge instead of just being annoyed at ourselves for making excuses. We can learn to outsmart that part of our brain. And this is important. Many people rely on their excuses because it's easier than facing the truth. They stay stuck because it feels safe. As a recovering alcoholic myself, I can tell you those excuses are tempting. I've said things like, "I'll stop tomorrow," or "It's just stress," hundreds of times, but knowing why I do it, how my brain is wired, gives me hope. I can beat that part of my mind. Maybe I can help others do the same. So in closing, I want to remind you of something important. Our brains are incredibly clever. They can come up with funny, sometimes ridiculous excuses to protect us from pain and difficulty. According to recent research, our inner alcoholic really does have a PhD in denial, constantly coming up with clever reasons to avoid facing reality. But here's the good news. Once we understand how our minds work, we can start to outsmart those excuses. We don't have to be prisoners to that hilarious yet harmful part of ourselves. Hold on. But next time you catch yourself making a silly excuse, remember your brain is doing what it was built to. But with awareness, patience, and a little science on your side, you can turn that mental comedy show into a tool for growth. And maybe, just maybe, you'll give that PhD in denial a well-deserved retirement. Thank you.